Dạ vâng, phải nói là như là một người Hoa Kỳ, người Mỹ chính gốc, mà ông ấy viết được một cái kịch bản như thế, để mà có thể làm được một cái bộ phim như thế, thưa quý vị. I was saying that you are a real American. What is the most emotional moment on this project when you making the movie?
Well,
She mean that
yeah.
it's not easy for you to put everything together and make it happen.
Well,
you know?
it wasn't just me, but the payoff is like this. Being here with you, I mean, and I have so many Vietnamese friends. It just gives me joy. It cost a lot.
Yeah.
It cost me a lot, but it was worth it, and it still blesses me. Like I said, I have this great team that I work with of American Vietnamese physicians and dentists, and but to serve with them is I love they're a family to me. They really are, and
You American, but you have an Asian blood in you, especially Vietnamese.
well, yeah, it's still a
To
difficult
feel
language. Tiếng
it,
Việt
yes.
is a hard language
Yeah.
for me, but
Yes.
yeah.
Because when I watched the movie, it's not you bring up the memories of the prisoner. They call education camp.
Right.
But also the American soldier that always together, side by side
Right.
with the Vietnamese
Right.
soldier. So that is like a very beautiful image.
Thank you.
That I see in this movie. And the sad thing is, when I have a chance to work with Bridging the Gap, that is the veteran
Yes,
organization.
I know. Yeah, familiar with them.
And they're feeling, they still having painful in their brain because they think they're the one that make Vietnam. They're not hero,
Well,
they feel very sorrow.
They shouldn't feel sorry.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
why they had the Bridging the Gap,
Yes.
so that they can healing.
Yeah.
So I mean, in this world, of course, the other side, our side, still have the pain, and some on other way. But when we see the image of an American soldier with the South Vietnamese soldier working together, it's just amazing, And that picture is showing, we have a connection, and I don't know what happened with the world that is make things happen, and people have a misrepresent about the war, the Vietnam War back then.
One of the things I have hundreds of friends that I've become friendly with because I did the book and interviewed so many more Vietnam. But my heroes when I was in the Marine Corps, my senior officers were Vietnam veterans. So that was sort of how I fell into this. And they were all such wonderful men. And the ones who served with the Vietnamese understand, because most Americans, if they went to Vietnam, they went for 1 year or 13 months. Some of them maybe went a couple of times. But Ben, he had one tour of duty. It was 11 years long.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And Americans go away to fight wars, and the Vietnamese had that war there. So we don't appreciate that. We've had the luxury as Americans to not have war here, and there was no downside to this. I met so many great American Marines, and one thing I'd like to point out, because the Vietnam War gets dismissed now. The Vietnamese were corrupt. It wasn't a war worth fighting. That's not true. Was it more corrupt than the United States?
Yeah.
For crying out loud. But more importantly, it was worth the fight. And they've interviewed veterans after the war, and I think there's something like 90 or 91% of combat veterans, not all veterans, guys that were in combat, because not everybody was in combat.
Frontline.
The ones that were walking in rice paddies and jungles. 91% of them were proud of their service, and something like 74% said they would do it again, knowing the same outcome. They would do it again. That's how proud they were of their service, and that doesn't get picked up much. And of course, now we're losing. This guy's not a kid anymore.
No.
I mean, we're losing American Vietnam veterans and Vietnamese veterans very rapidly. Leigh Bob Bin's gone, John Ripley's gone. So many of the men I interviewed in my book are gone. Yeah, and they were real heroes.
Right.
They did the Americans did the unpopular thing. So no, we need to celebrate that and pass it on to the kids.
Would the movie going to change the perspective of the American about the war? But he already answered it in Vietnamese, so I don't have to translate it to you.
Okay.
But anyhow, I think this question going to be perfect question. We want to hear your answer. If you think that your movie, when you make it, it's going to help changing anything.
Well, that was certainly our intent. But I mean, we knew we were small.
Right.
I put all the money I had in it, and I had a few friends invest money in it, and that wasn't certainly enough to do it. But it was the best we could do.
Right.
So there you have it.
Right.
Yeah, we were up against some pretty big. I mean, when you think about most of the films made in America. I haven't looked at films much today, but all the Vietnam films before Platoon, whichever one you can pick, they always portrayed the American soldier or Marine as kind of a pitiable figure or a victim, right? And diminished. He had problems. He was whatever it was. Mm-hmm. They didn't portray him in an honorable way. And then they portrayed the Vietnamese even worse. Right? They were all traders. They were all just trying to make money or whatever. And I did not buy that. I mean, I'm sure there's bad people everywhere. I mean, there's guys like William Calley, Me Lai.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't my pick for, he wouldn't make it in the military today. That kind of thing. But generally, I think the men who served on the South Vietnamese side and certainly in the Vietnamese Marine Corps, they were a much higher quality unit. The ARVN, now we've talked about this, the Vietnamese Marine Corps was separate from the Army.
Right.
And they had a very high standard. They never amounted to more than 18 to 20,000 men in the entire war. ARVN had over 1 million. So they had really good units, and they had some that weren't so good. But that's normal. That's normal.
I would say that few scenes about the Dong Ha battle. So what is your thought about it, and how you bring that one into the movie?
Well, one of the restraints we had, the big event of the Dong Ha battle was that the American John Ripley blew up the bridge.
Right.
And we just didn't have the money to blow up a bridge, so we tried to do as best as we could.
Right.
But the significant thing about that battle, really, if you look at where it was during history, it was during Easter of 1972. The North Vietnamese had launched this massive offensive, bigger than Tet of 1968, by a large margin, and they were generally unprepared for that. And the only ones stopping them there were American Marine advisors with Vietnamese Marines and some Army units, Vietnamese Army units there. But it was Leigh Bob Bin's battalion, 3rd Battalion, was right there at the bridge with Ripley. And if they hadn't stopped the North Vietnamese there, the war might have ended in 1972. The quality of the aggressive nature, the fighting spirit of the tank commanders, I'm thankful, wasn't that great, because it was a couple of Leigh Bob Bin's Marines that fired what was the equivalent of a bazooka. It's called a Law. And they stopped. They could have come across with no problem if they had just a little more testosterone, which they didn't have, I guess. And Ripley blew the bridge and bought the South 3 more years. I really believe that, because if they had come across in force, there was nothing to stop them all the way to Saigon. I mean, it would have been a hard fight. And so that is a significant battle that is underappreciated.
That is. Like he bring his life to death right there.
Right.
Because Mr. Ripley, to blow up the bridge, is he had to climb up to every single area there to put the
dynamite in,
the dynamite in there.
He should have been awarded the Medal of Honor. He should have been awarded the Medal of Honor.
He is. And then when he come back to the U.S., look what other people would talk about him in the bar. So that is really sad.
Well, that scene in the film is kind of we took a little bit of liberty there, because but we wanted to show the mood in the United States with that.
At that time.
Yeah, at that time. But no, he was a genuine hero. Many of us believe that he should have been awarded the Medal of Honor. That at this point, it
So,
probably doesn't matter.
Mr. Ripley, or he's passed away.
He passed away in 2008, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was late. It was around October of 2008.
I
Yeah.
see.